between them are going to explain how their organisations, and indeed your organisations, can make the most of social media. As we all know, and obviously David and many people have mentioned this morning, it's increasingly important for marketers and rights holders to be driving the social conversation and fostering consumer engagement through digital means. Yet while that is generally accepted as industry standard, investment in social media doesn't always convert neatly into financial returns. To help us understand how that conversion rate can be maximised as best as possible, we have Elly Cockcroft. As head of marketing at our host here today, the Marylebone Cricket Club, Elly has responsibility for marketing the club and its products and services, as well as brand development and ownership, customer experience and retail. And alongside Elly is Stephan, the head of client services at Two Circles, which is a data-driven agency that helps its clients, including Fulham Football Club, as of yesterday, the Lawn Tennis Association and Elly's MCC, develop stronger relationships with their customers and grow commercial revenue. So please welcome to the stage Elly and Phil.
Thanks, Michael. Hopefully my microphone is working. I started one of these presentations a couple of weeks back and realised no one could actually hear me, because I've had lots of blank faces back. So glad it's working fine. So we're here to talk to you about conversation or conversion, and the way you use social media to build engagement, or whether you're using it to drive revenue, or whether you're trying to do both of those things. It was posited as a theme that was running through this conference, that people wanted to understand how they should be using social media. Is it about engagement? Is it about driving revenue? Or is it about a combination of the two? So pulled together about a 25-minute presentation. We've got about 20 minutes for conversation afterwards, depending on when people could turn up from the last one. So just quickly to introduce ourselves and build on what Michael said, I'm Phil, I'm Head of Client Services at Two Circles. For the last 10 years I've been working exclusively in entertainment, so started off working in the music industry before going to work for the South Bank Centre, which is the world's largest centre for the arts. I had a marketing role at both those organisations before going on to be at Chelsea Football Club, where I was responsible for their CRM programme and all of their customer insight and the utilisation of that across all of our revenue streams, before joining Two Circles, where I work across a multitude of sports in the rights holder space, so in rugby, cricket, football, and a number of others. Elly?
I'm Elly Cockcroft. I'm the Head of Marketing here at MCC, and I graduated from the University of Memphis in Tennessee with a Master's in Sports Marketing in 2004, and came back to the UK looking for work and ended up at Lord's, which was a nice gig that I could get when I finished. But since my time at MCC and at Lord's, I've sort of grown up within the organisation, starting as a hospitality executive and subsequently creating the first marketing team that we've ever had here, and everything that goes with that. So I hope you've all had a good day at Lord's today. It's a pleasure to have everybody here. And just to give you a brief overview of what Marylebone Cricket Club is, what Lord's Cricket Ground, and what we do. MCC is a private members club, so that's first and foremost. And we have a public purpose, and that's most evident, if you like, through the work we do at Lord's Cricket Ground, which some of you may have been here for matches and that sort of thing. We've got over 22,000 members on our database, and there's currently a 25-year waiting list to become an MCC member. So my role does not involve trying to recruit new members. But MCC serves many roles, and the one we're obviously most well known for is as the owners of Lord's Cricket Ground, and our responsibility with that is to make sure that we're maintaining Lord's as a world-class sporting venue, and certainly as the world's best cricket venue. But we are a 365-day-a-year business now, and as I'm sure if any of you come from sporting venues, that's very much the norm these days for sports venues to operate 365 days a year instead of just the 10 or 12 for international cricket. So meetings and events is part of that, tours, cricket academy and that sort of thing. So it's very diverse.
Okay, so you probably know what Lord's is and what the MCC are, because you're here at Lord's, but you may not know who Two Circles are. So Two Circles are a sports marketing agency effectively, but we differentiate ourselves from other sports marketing agencies by focusing on customers. We work exclusively in the rights holder space in sports, and we help them build better relationships with their customer using the currency of customer data. So we believe sports rights holders who have customer data as a generating entity within their businesses, and they're failing to utilise that effectively to grow their businesses. So we see it underutilised, and we're trying to help them unlock the value of their customer data. We do that by helping them better understand their customers, who they are and how they're behaving. We use that to build CRM strategies, to build CRM solutions, technological solutions, help them understand people, how they use people in their business to better manage their relationship with customers. Increasingly, we do work using data to help sell, activate, and evaluate sponsorship. And ultimately, we're trying to help them build better customer experiences, drive commercial revenues, or whatever their business priorities are. We do some work in the participation space as well. We've won a bunch of awards. That's great for us, but probably less interesting for you. So on to the meat of what we're going to talk about today, which is engagement and revenue generation and social media. So this is something that most businesses are grappling with. It's not a sports-specific issue. It's particularly magnified in the world of sports because lots of the biggest sports rights holders have huge social following. So tens of millions, hundreds of millions of social followers. And they're trying to work out how to use social media to balance their commercial aims as well as their ambitions to build engagement with their customers. So how do they balance conversation with conversion? So starting outside of the world of sports, start with. Some examples from Twitter feeds from Paddy Power. That went very quickly. Where you can see they're using content, promoting conversation, not actively trying to achieve a commercial benefit. They're just trying to promote some conversation, some engagement with their customers, as opposed to ASOS's example on Twitter on the right-hand side, where they're actively trying to promote a product or service. So this has got a conversational goal. I want people to engage with this content, talk about my brand, share this content, while ASOS here are actually trying to generate direct return. I want someone to buy those shoes, and I'm using the environmental factors to try and make that relevant. So what role does social media play in your business? And throughout this, we're going to reference how the MCC use social media and balance these two objectives. So Elly's going to talk a little through about how they use Twitter.
So for us, definitely, social media is relatively new. It's probably really only taken to grips within the last 3 years of our business. And the challenge as part of that has been changing the internal culture for MCC and Lords as a traditional organisation, really for us to begin to have a social voice, one that's less authoritative and perhaps less conservative than we may have actually had through other channels before social media came about. But Twitter is now used primarily for us to build engagement. For us, it's all about the conversation and to build trust in our brands, Lords and MCC. But in doing so, we want to be able to reach as many people as possible and really grow our global audience. And we currently use Twitter infrequently, I would say, for the conversion side of things. It's all about the conversation at the moment. And much is the same for Facebook, actually, as the other primary social channel that we use at the moment. And that's all about, again, building engagement through the posts on there. And again, growing our Facebook and Lords and MCC brands through that, reaching as many people as possible. But from time to time, I'm allowed to use it for a conversion tool. And in the main, that's happened through paid-for marketing on Facebook.
And this is what we see most sports rights holders doing, that they use it primarily, Twitter, Facebook, their social channels, for conversation to build engagement. But they will dip into the conversion every now and again, try and promote a product or service and get some direct response from it. So here, actively, Lords trying to promote T20. This issue, though, it's not specific to social media, so it's a cross-channel issue. If you're just thinking about engagement and revenue and what we do with social media, then you're missing the broader mix that it fits within. So this is an age-old debate, and so TV, see the same issue, different channel. So the new John Lewis ad that everyone's talking about, some people might be shedding a few tears in response to. That's all about conversation. That's all about engagement with that brand. I'm not saying at the end of it, go and buy this product at John Lewis. It's making you feel a certain way about John Lewis. It's making you feel a certain way about their brand. And then they're hoping in the long term that will make you more likely to go and do your Christmas shopping there. It's not actively saying, go to John Lewis this weekend and buy this product, it's only $9.99, which is quite different from the Sky example on the side where they're actively promoting a product or service, not trying to make customer feel anything about Sky in that, they're just trying to promote a product and service as best they can and get the best response. You see that across email strategies. It's very easy to see this, where you have newsletters and content-based communications, which are predominantly about driving engagement, so getting people interacting regularly with that brand because they hope to get value from that interaction. And then occasionally, and you see this more on email because it's more of a transactional channel, they're actually promoting their products and services where they want a direct response. They actually want to sell a shirt. So it's not unique to social media. And social media, and whether you use it for engagement or whether you use it for conversion, should be part of a multi-channel strategy where you look across all of the customer channels that your customers engage with and how you balance what you're trying to achieve at each point of those. If you are conversational across all of those, you're probably not going to get your customers spending as much money as if you've got an effective balance between the two. If you're conversion focused across all of those, you're probably not going to get the level of customer engagement that you need. So you need to be thinking about it as part of a broader marketing mix. But how well integrated are social media strategies within business? I've posed a question here. What percentage of CMOs believe their social strategies are integrated with their business objectives? Not many at all. And you have a lot of social departments sit in different parts of the business, their marketing teams. You have digital marketing managers who sit separate to their marketing teams and not really kind of pulling together and thinking across channel how we engage with our customers. So more integration needed within this space. And ultimately, each channel can play a different role at a different time, and they're better and weaker at other channels. So social's fantastic for frequency of engagement. If someone follows you on Twitter or Facebook and you're active, they will see a lot of your content very often. But they're also seeing a lot of other people's content. So very difficult to get cut through and build depth of engagement. So you see depth of engagement being built primarily through their web properties, their own website. So social will often be directing back to a website where someone will watch a video, where they will spend time going through multiple pages on your site. So you get high frequency on social, more deep engagement via their other digital channels, predominantly their website. And you see channels like email, traditional CRM channels, which drive spend most effectively. But really they're working together. That frequency of engagement, that depth of engagement is building your customer to want to have a transactional relationship. And usually other channels are generating that spend.
And that's definitely true for the way that we work here at Lords. We very much take a multi-channel approach to drive engagement and maintain a conversation so that we can have greater success with our conversion, perhaps at a later date. And fundamentally using social media to drive the engagement and conversation, but using email and even other broader digital channels to primarily drive the revenue and the conversion. And email for us actually, partly because it sits in the marketing function, whereas social media sits in the media and comms function. But email provides a very cost-effective and targeted marketing tool and therefore plays a key role in our customer engagement strategy. And through targeted communications, we can really begin to unleash some of the key commercial tools that we're looking for. You can see an example there of one of our retail emails, purely aiming to drive revenue. But we also use email to help prolong the conversation through building engagement, particularly out of season when we haven't got perhaps as much need for conversion. Social email channels really help us build the customer experience year round and maintain that conversation. But our social channels have been used successfully to grow our global reach, and I think that's been really critical for us. And as you can see in the numbers here, the Indian audience is huge for us in this area. However, what's interesting in this scenario is that actually it poses quite a challenge to us of how we create conversion from a conversation with our Indian audience. And as you can see, that's the 53% of our Facebook audience are based in India. How do we get them to transact with us when they're not going to be coming over here buying tickets for international matches and that sort of thing? And I think that's something we're battling with at the moment, and how we get money from that conversation. Whether or not we develop products exclusively for our social channels and for that audience exclusively on social media is something that we're looking at the moment.
Okay, so how do we make social pay? What we see, and through some of the examples we've shown earlier, is that most businesses use social media for conversation, so for engagement, building engagement. So they're heavily weighted towards the conversational side and light on conversion. So you see Lords occasionally use it for conversion. Some social media teams will refuse to let their marketing teams use it as a marketing channel, and they'll actually hide products and services that they know they want to promote, which is an interesting strategy. Some big football clubs who we've had some engagement with, their social media teams won't let their marketing teams let their fans and customers know when tickets are available, for example, as if your fans on social media won't want to know they can actually come and see their team play. Such is the disintegration between those channels and that strategy. What you don't see a lot of is very conversional focused social media channels, and that's because that's not what those channels were designed to do. So they're overly transactional strategies tend to build disengagement with your customers. They get fed up at receiving communications that are just purely asking for money, and they don't really pay in the long term. So you don't see a lot of that, and that's not the right strategy. All of the social media channels were built to exchange content, to build relationships between people. So they naturally lend themselves to conversation. They don't naturally lend themselves to conversion. So you see very little, very conversional focus. But one way or another, most commercial rights holders are trying to make money through their social channels. So whether that be directly, where they're posting messages out saying buy this product or services, or whether indirectly, where they're trying to build that engagement for a reason. They're not doing it because they think it's a nice thing to do. They're doing it because they're looking to make money through it one way or another. So, and
again, that's pretty much the case for us here at Lords. Because we have a brand site, if you like, lords.org, our social channels are primarily used to drive traffic to lords.org in order to enhance and continue the conversation at a deeper level, whether that be through video or bigger news articles or what have you. But email is primarily used to direct people to our ticket site, our e-commerce site, to drive conversion. And this becomes most evident in our analytics data, where social media is clearly, just to the other one, sorry, next one, yeah. Social media is clearly a powerful channel for driving traffic to lords.org. Twitter actually sends more traffic to lords.org than any other website, and that's over 24% of web referrals come through from Twitter. And Facebook is number 3rd in the list there, with over 9% of website referrals coming to lords.org. But email drives more traffic to the ticketing website for the e-commerce and the conversion. And what you can see here in the numbers is significantly greater conversion rate through email than directly from our social media channel. But what's most interesting is, given social media is one of the key drivers of traffic to lords.org, and what you see is a 4% conversion rate from lords.org to the ticket site. Indirectly, social media will be playing a part in that conversion rate, and that's part of the challenge, is to try and attribute that to social media.
Yeah. So the data tells us, and I see this again and again across client businesses, if you have your web tracking set up correctly, if you have your analytics set up correctly, the social media won't generate a lot of traffic or convert in high rates to when you put out more transactional messages. So you don't get a lot of immediate response in terms of conversions. Email is a much more effective transactional tool, and you get higher conversion rates of traffic that you generate. People generally clicking on links saying, I want to buy tickets, I'm interested. They will go on and convert at a higher rate. What you see there is your own brand site or clients' brand sites directing traffic of engaged customers through stories, through videos, from social channels indirectly back into your ticketing site, back into your e-commerce sites, generating revenue. So the data tells you you can make money through social media, but it's not necessarily direct. And conversation and conversion are inherently linked. The more you drive conversation, the more engaged your customer base, the more likely they are to purchase. So this is one of those stats which are generalized and not specific to any of our clients, but is a general truism. And if you properly track customer engagement across multi-channels, if you're able to build engagement with customers, your most engaged customers are going to be significantly more likely to go on to make purchases than those people who are not engaged with your communications or channels. So having a multi-channel conversion strategy that's based around engagement will generate revenue. It's not that their two objectives are not mutually exclusive. Also, that engagement can be leveraged for more indirect revenue streams like partnerships and sponsorships. So partners and sponsors want to use rights holders' brands to amplify their messages and give meaning, resonance to those messages because they're associated with a brand that customers will allow in and fans will allow into their life more than they will do the partner brand. So that engagement, increasing that engagement also creates more value for commercial partners, not just the rights holders themselves. So kind of key takeaway from this is that engagement should be your primary goal on social. And you need to integrate as part of a multi-channel strategy. Those other channels, if integrated effectively, will convert the engagement that you build through your social channels into revenue. But don't be afraid to use social media to promote your products and services every now and again. Don't hide it. Don't pretend they don't exist and just be focused exclusively on getting engagement. So social as an indirect revenue generation platform is being challenged by social media channels themselves. And as social media channels are sold or bought and develop their own shareholders, they need to make money. They all started off without business plans in place. They wanted to build a critical mass, most of them, critical customer engagement, and then they're looking to monetize that themselves. So similar to rights holders in that respect, they have a massive amount of customer relationships. They're not necessarily getting all the money from that. So you see innovation in the product space from social media channels. So the innovation of Twitter cards, which allows you to capture data, for example, lead generation from your Twitter followers. You see Facebook custom audiences where you can take your own data, aggregate that with Facebook data, and target your customers based on known attributes via social channels. You can, on Facebook, also promote your posts, amplify your posts, amplify it so you make sure your posts get seen by your followers, because Facebook newsfeed will filter some of your posts out. You can make sure they're seen by their friends of friends. And you can use that to capture leads, promote specific products and services, and use it for social amplification to build your brand reach. So social is fighting back and trying to become more of a conversational channel and not just a conversational channel. You also see some brands trying to actively collect social data. So whether it be building data capture mechanisms and promoting that via Facebook and Twitter, or whether it be integrating Facebook Connect, social sign-on, building Twitter apps, Facebook apps, and actually asking people to for them to access brands and rights holders to access your data. Things like how many friends you have, what other brands you follow, what you like, what you don't like, whether you're engaged with content or not, and using this social data alongside their traditional, more CRM data sources like transactional data and contact data to build up a full social profile. So they'll actually target people based on their influence. They'll target people based on what brands they like, and we'll use that across their channels. So that means what you're seeing is data and technology being used to actively manage the transition from conversation to conversion. So it's no longer a matter of build up engagement, hope at some point it translates into conversion. You're actively managing that. So whether that be monitoring who's engaging or not engaging with your posts and how they engage with it, seeing whether they go on to engage with your brand sites, your ticketing sites, your e-commerce sites, seeing whether they purchased or not, and when they purchased. If they don't purchase but they're interested in a product, be able to actively retarget that, whether it be via digital channels and third-party networks, whether it be via email, in one-to-one communications through website personalization. The leaders in this space are thinking truly multi-channel and are making decisions based on customer data and where customers are in their purchase journey and engagement journey. It means they're managing them across all of their different phases of engagement. So whether they're aware of them and they're a fan or a follower, but they've not actively engaged, they're moving them to engage with their brand. They're managing that engagement through to transaction, and once they transact, they're managing their transactional relationship. So they go from purchasing once to purchasing multiple times, purchasing in one season to coming back season on season. So what's traditionally been thought of as CRM, expanded into social CRM, is just customer management. Multi-channel, multi-customer type, but true customer management. So that's us done on the presentation, so I'll leave you with a few final thoughts. It's okay to be commercial on your social channels from time to time, but don't expect to make a quick buck from social. So it's about engagement. It's a long-term play. That's because social media is a relationship-building tool. They were built as relationship-building tools. That's what they're very good at. But conversation breeds conversion, both the long-term and medium-term, not necessarily in the short-term. To do that effectively, you need to build a multi-channel strategy across your, based on your customers, and think and act truly multi-channel. Don't just think about social media and allow your social media strategy to be dictated by a department that's separate to the rest of your business. But social media is evolving. My slides keep going very quickly. Customer behaviour is changing, and your ability to react to all of this changing landscape, we believe, will be by how effective you are at capturing data, analysing data, and more importantly, acting on that data as quickly as possible to manage those relationships most effectively and influence your commercial revenue streams. Thank you for the time.
So we do have just under 10 minutes. If anyone's got any questions for Phil and Elly based on what you've just seen and heard. Yep. There's a microphone just coming if you please want to wait.
Hi there. Thanks very much for that. That was interesting. Apart from your own brands, and obviously the ones you work upon, and obviously the MCC and Lords, what would be your best examples of how you've seen brands really engage both in the conversation and conversion piece, obviously based on what their kind of brand category is?
It's done a lot better outside of sport rather than inside of sport. I can't share some of the work that we've done with some of our clients that truly manage that whole space, but it's the brands that have that critical mass of having a good number of followers, having good levels of engagement with it, but also to start with, it was the biggest brands who had the money to put the technology in place to manage those customer relationships, but that entry point has completely changed. So it used to be £1 million to build an effective CRM database. Now you can get up and running with a fraction of that. So the marketplace has changed. I can't share any examples within sport where that's not a client where I think they're doing it fantastically across all channels, because it's very difficult to get that visibility when you're not working with them. I can share some good examples of where some of our clients are doing that, but I can't share that to any kind of detail. I'm sorry, that's kind of a woolly answer. But look outside of sport for some great examples, and you see big Premier League clubs are now taking this seriously, investing in this. You go and follow some of the top 4 clubs, you'll see some of this happening.
And I think just to add to that sport's got quite a bit of catching up to do in a number of areas, and so that's why you'll see better examples outside of sport. They've had much longer to get to that stage than sport has, and even for us as an example, we've only really looking at social media for the past 3 years. Sort of had to spend that time engaging and understanding customer before we can really start to get any value from it from a commercial perspective. And that's just the nature of sport. I think it's relied too heavily for too long on the tribalistic nature of sports fans.
And I think because of that, they've generated there are some really great sports social channels out there where there's great levels of engagement and conversation. Manchester City, for example, are very, very good at generating content and generating high levels of engagement. Not all of the very few rights holders within the sports space are doing an effective job of converting that through into direct commercial revenue.
Any other questions? Just 2 over here. Take your pick.
Hi, more for you, Elly. Just looking forward to next year, obviously a big showpiece event in terms of the Cricket World Cup. I was just wondering where you kind of come into that. Are you already planning your social media strategy in terms of kind of tapping into that conversation? Obviously, venue-wise, it's not happening here, but is that something that you look to target and think about how you can, create a conversation around that and also convert that into opportunities for financial return, or is that kind of a different area?
No, I think that's a really good question, because it's a real challenge, actually, for not as the actual rights holder of cricket. We're just the venue. ECB are obviously the England cricket rights holder. We really struggle to find engaging content outside of the season. And one would think that people come to the Lords website within the cricket season when they know matches are happening at Lords and there's content for them to look at. But we are constantly trying to grab content from global events like the World Cup and make it relevant to our Lords audience on our social channels, and that's a real challenge. But fortunately for us, we've got a long history of cricket being played at Lords, so inevitably there's a stat or a fact or something that someone's done well in the World Cup that's also done it well at Lords, and we can kind of make that link, and that's what we really try to do outside of the cricket season here at Lords, and the World Cup will be a big part of that.
I think one of the stats you said was an engaged fan is 4 times more likely to purchase. Thinking around the Rugby World Cup, and it's an opportunity to grow participation in rugby, how do you see social media as a tool to drive participation rather than commercial aspects?
So we've done a few case studies where we've applied some of the kind of tools and techniques that you apply to drive commercial revenue to actually participation, and it's just another objective that you're trying to achieve. So you get similar results, you get similar responses to it. So being engaged with watching rugby, with going to rugby, will make you more likely to go and to actually participate in rugby. But most NGBs and most rights holders aren't thinking about the two alongside each other. So they're thinking about their commercial objectives and they're thinking about the participation objectives, and not effectively aggregating those two. So not actually promoting to people who go to the game or people who follow the game to play the game, or not promote to people who play the game to actually follow the game. And again, it's similar to the point around social media, that there's poor integration between departmental objectives and thinking about a customer and their different objectives and different aspects of their life and managing in their entirety.
Any other questions? One more.
Do you have any thoughts about, let's say you're not a sporting brand, perhaps take the automotive industry as an example, how you strike a balance between talking about your product, which is what obviously followers have signed up to see, versus going out there with a sponsorship message. So let's say you're in cricket, for example. The fans may not have signed up to get cricket news, but you want to push out your sponsorship message. So how do you do that without turning people off?
So by understanding your customers, so there's incredible data sources out there to determine what your customers are interested in and what they're not interested in. For example, we, for some of our clients, have identified whether a car partner and a football club or a cricket club, whether the cricket club customer base actively drive this car already or not. So do we know that we're going to try and get them to upgrade their current car? Do we know whether they drive another car, but we think we can get them to buy the partner car? So that's what we do on the rights holder space. And outside of that space, we can go, okay, of people who are the luxury car brand followers, who are these are engaged with our partner brand, with a football club, for example, and we can use that data to improve the brand's communications to their own base and to people who are actively engaged with their brand. So, for example, if you partner a football club and you don't want to be necessarily activating that partnership via your own channels to people you know who are fans of their rival club. So using that data, you can use it both on the rights holder space and the brand space to activate the partnership effectively and build more effective customer relationships. But it's about about capturing that data and using that data.
And I think it's a very fine balance as well from going too far the other way, which I think was perhaps what you were getting at. And but understanding your customer and the customer of the partner brand, I think, is absolutely critical to making sure you keep that balance and don't disengage either party.
We've got one more.
Thank you. I just had something to add to the previous gentleman's point on the Rugby World Cup and how we can look to increase participation from that. Obviously, no matter how England does, we're hosting it, so people are going to be more interested. I sit on one of the World Cup legacy groups, and I think what the RFU, and in fact each rugby union can do, is signpost how people can get involved. So if you like what you see on the TV, here's where you can go and find your local club. But I'm also working very closely with Twitter and Facebook to build a social media toolkit, if you like, for grassroots rugby clubs who, they're run by volunteers, so they're not resourced by communications professionals, to enable them to communicate better with people through these methods, so they can join in the conversation that's happening at that top level. And if people are joining in that conversation locally, then they can be signposted. So I'd just like to add that I think it's a collaborative process, but if you can signpost people and the information's there, and you can join in a conversation on all these channels, then we can increase the conversion, which in this way is participation.
Thanks. Do we have one more question over there?
Yeah.
Got time.
Sort of one or two pieces of key advice would you give to a TV governing body to build a social media following from a very low base, bodies, let's say, in the sports space,
Yeah.
but so that that can actually be a useful part of their sponsorship and all of that.
So if you're going to build volume, you can only do that through great content and through associating with people who've got volume. So these social media channels are content sharing and relationship building tools. So if you can build relationships with people who've got volume already, that will give you an ability to amplify your content. If you put great content out there, that gives you something that people will want to share. Once you become a great content publisher, through the relationships that you build via social media, you'll start growing incredible volume.
I think that's exactly where we started. We haven't long been in the social game here, but we had to start from the very basic level of having a Twitter and a Facebook account for starters, and then building content to drive that conversation and grow followers. And we are only just getting to the stage really where we can start to think about, okay, well now how do we get that into a conversion? It takes time, takes patience, and just consistently good engagement with your customers.
And you needn't hire an expensive agency to create incredible content. You can, like, handheld videos, going to a training ground, watching someone do an incredible skill or a trick or doing something unusual. That people are used to consuming low quality kind of production, but really engaging content. So some of the most viewed videos in the social space are cats playing at home. It's not an expensive agency who's come up with a fantastic creative concept and charged you a few £100,000 to develop some incredible piece of production. It's just engaging content that's captured and that people want to share.
I think for sport, behind-the-scenes stuff is really good for that. We often just have a little handheld camera and go and try and get behind-the-scenes stuff. So.
Yeah. Just one more final question from me. It's interesting that you said that you created the first marketing team here at the MCC and for Lords, and you've only been doing social media for 3 years. This is a 200-year-old organisation, already known globally, an established brand. Was it a difficult sell internally to get the powers that be to invest in social media, given that there's not an obvious financial return from that?
Absolutely. Firstly, social media doesn't actually sit within the marketing team. As Phil said earlier, this is often the challenge from going from conversation to conversion. It sits within our media and communications team. I think from a marketing perspective, it was a challenge just to actually start to say, okay, well, can we actually spend money on proactively promoting Lord's cricket ground for whatever reason that might be, because actually we were slightly arrogant, I would say, pre kind of 2008, 2009, before the economic downturn, to say actually everyone wants to come to Lords and watch the cricket. And we were always sold out. It was absolutely fine. So I think that's been a cultural shift there. And likewise in the media and communications team, they were very much a traditional PR team, making sure that we're saying the right things about MCC as an organisation. And to sell that in internally was about changing our tone of voice, which was the biggest challenge, I think, for us. A very formal tone of voice where, you know, you address everybody by their initials, followed by, you know, their status and that sort of thing, to being able to say it's fine to actually say hi Joe or whatever. And that was a real big cultural shift for us. And it's a learning curve because the board still aren't that engaged with it. They've just kind of trusted us to get on with that conversation. And there's still times some things happen where they don't agree with what we've perhaps posted on our social media. But actually it's about realising the benefit of what that continual engagement has been. And we've now got, you know, we've got one full-time person who's on social media, and we've got one full-time person that's just generating content, video content for it, and the website. So it's definitely grown over the last few years.
Okay, well, we have run over slightly. Just before, is there any more questions? No? Just before you all go off and grab yourselves a coffee, I should just remind you that today's final session will take place in here at 4:15. The other group should be heading over now. Our final panel will assess the commercial approaches of 4 leading clubs in London Irish, Sporting Lisbon, Atletico Madrid and Manchester United. So be sure to check back in half an hour's time or 25 minutes' time. Thank you.
Thank you.